All right, what is going on? What's happening? How's everyone today? My name is Chuck, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today, folks, we had a massive update here in Warzone where they buffed and nerfed a whole bunch of different guns, changed some attachments around. So I want to go through today and go through all the different patch notes and stuff and give you guys some updated setups here and weapon breakdowns for these weapons that, of course, been touched. This update just kind of came out of the blue. It's a little bit random. I was not expecting it, but here today, we, of course, got some more weapon changes. So without further ado, let's hop into it. And, of course, before I forget, make sure you guys drop a like and subscribe, notifications turned on. With that being said, now let's hop into the video. Okay, so the first one we're going to take a look at here today is going to be the XM4. They actually did mess with the damage profile of this. They increased the headshot damage multiplier up to 1.54 from 1.5, so that's a pretty decent increase. But then the maximum damage was decreased down to 29 from 30, so only a 1 point difference, which really is not going to make too much of a difference. So I'd more or less kind of call this a bit of a buff. It's I guess it kind of evens out, but let's give you guys a good setup here for this updated XM4. So first thing, muzzle category, of course, gonna be the agency suppressor. Like always, we kind of always run this thing, and this definitely is going to kind of cater towards that update. After that, the barrel section, we have 13.5 task force, of course. This is what we are going to be running for this XM4 build. We've kind of been sticking with it here for a while, so we don't have to change up too much on this thing. They didn't really mess with this barrel in specific. In the underbarrel section, we're going to throw on the field agent grip here to be able to deal with our horizontal and vertical recoil. We definitely need to be able to do that just because this thing will bounce around a little bit. It is more prone to that, so that's a huge thing. In the magazine section, we're going to go through on the Stenag 60 round mag. I just love the Stenag 60. I mean, I think it's just such a great attachment for this gun. Of course, I'm a 60 round mag kind of guy, so that's kind of what we're going to be running here today. And then to finish off this whole build here, to make it the most effective it can be, we're going to throw in that beautiful axle arms 3 times. And I think I may be able to get a little bit of a diamond thing here. Never mind, I take that back. But we're going to be throwing on the axle arms 3 times. This is my full build here for this thing. Definitely a really good AR here after update. You guys should definitely give it a shot here because it definitely did get a bit of a buff and also technically a bit of a nerf. Okay, so our next one here today, what also got touched within the update is the Cold War AK-47. What happened with this thing here is the maximum damage been decreased down to 34 from 36, which is a tad bit of a nerf here. And then the maximum or the minimum damage has been decreased down to 30 from 32. So for whatever reason, they feel like they want to just kind of mess with this weapon, but it's still going to be good. People have been using it all day. I've been talking to all my friends. They pretty much been saying it pretty much feels almost the exact same. So let's at least give you guys an updated setup for it so you can dominate Warzone. So first thing in this muzzle category, of course, being that GRU suppressor. We just like running that GRU. It just makes it very, very simple to be able to use. And of course, you can kind of add this on here and make it look a little bit nicer. It's kind of weird how some of these like weapon variants kind of like help with the camo covering it. I don't really get that, but whatever, it is what it is. Barrel section though, we're gonna throw on the Spetsnaz RPK barrel here like usual. We don't really need to change this up too much just because we're still trying to keep this as effective as it can be at range. And of course, them decreasing a little bit, we definitely need to be able to have this on there. Under barrel section, we're gonna go through and add on the Spetsnaz grip here for horizontal and vertical recoil control. Super good thing to be able to run on this weapon. Definitely would recommend it. In the magazine section, we are going to once again throw on the Bakelite 60 or the 45 round mag. It's a little personal preference here. This just kind of comes down to if you want a little bit more mobility, run the 45. If you want a little bit less mobility but more ammo, we're on the 60. And of course, you're going to deal with a bit of an ADS penalty here, but they didn't actually mess with your aim down sight time at all here within this update, so don't worry too much about that. I believe we can potentially, like I said, get this thing to look a little bit cooler like that. But now for our final attachment here in the optics section, throw on the axle arms 3 times. Of course, very simple, very easy to be able to use. I always use it on all my Cold War ARs. This is my full build here for the updated AK-47, Cold War AK-47 that is. And this is a Cursed Angel variant, by the way, with diamond camo on it. So real good gun. Definitely still try to use it after the update. They only decrease it ever so slightly. All right, so for the next gun in this update, we are taking a look at the Weld gun. This actually got full-on buffs all the way through. So the minimum damage has been increased from 24 up from 23. And then the Gawain short barrel, the bullet velocity penalty has been entirely removed, which is definitely pretty sick. And the 240mm Hawkinson 43 has now got the increase in bullet velocity by 40%. So it's definitely making this gun here a little bit more viable. So let's give you guys an updated setup for this Weld gun. First thing in this, obviously the muzzle. We're going to throw on that recoil booster. We've always run the recoil on this thing, so definitely going to run that. In the barrel section, we're going to run that Gawain short barrel specifically because, you know, there's none of that bullet velocity, you know, decrease anymore, which is really awesome. I was running this beforehand, which made it unbelievably good, but I'm still going to run it again just because it's like, I mean, this got buffed, so you might as well just run the same thing just because there's no reason to change it up. In the underbarrel section, we're going to go throw on the M1941 hand stop. Just got to be able to control the recoil and everything like that. This gun will be prone to bouncing around, so we're going to do that. The magazine section, we're going to throw on the 7.62 Gorenko. This definitely did not get touched here, but definitely run the Gorenko. There's no reason for you guys to run anything else. The ammunition side of things, we're gonna go through on lengthened here to increase that bullet velocity. Just gonna make our shots hit a little bit faster, and that's never a bad thing. I switched over to this from hollow point. I just believe that lengthen is pretty solid. In the rear grip section here, there's a couple different options. You guys can run a leather grip here, which I've definitely done, or you could go run something like maybe polymer grip, which is gonna help with that flinch resistance and of course your accuracy and recoil during sustained fire. So if you're one of those people that feels like you need a little bit more help here on the recoil side of things, definitely give this a shot. But if you feel like you're okay with it, run the leather grip here. But I would not really suggest running fabric, as this is going to further decrease your accuracy and make the gun maybe just a little bit harder to control. So for me, leather, but if you feel like you need more, polymer. So that's going to be that. Now, in the optics section, though, we're going to throw on that beautiful slate reflector here, just because I mean, it's a slate reflector. You can't go wrong with this thing. Super easy to be able to use, very, clear sight. So I would recommend to just go use this exclusively. You could run the Night Model 47, but I personally just always run the slate reflector. I don't feel it's necessary for me to run anything else. Now, in the stock section, we're going to go through on that remove stock. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing to be able to run. We love to remove stock. It works out great for increasing mobility. And then, of course, in the perk section, we're going to go through on acrobatic here to further increase our mobility. And then perk 2, of course, to increase our mobility once again, sprint speed here for quick. So this is my full build here on this thing. I love the Weld gun. Super good. And it even just got better after the update, so you can't complain about that at all. Now we're going to take a look at the Owen gun. So this gun actually did get touched here as well, and the update goes as follows here. Minimum damage has been increased up to 24 from 22, so they did definitely buff the Owen gun, which it for sure didn't need a buff. And the Hawkinson barrel, what we normally speaking use, the fire rate has been decreased down to 10% from 16%, so very minimal decrease on that, but they did increase the damage. So I do believe after like all the testing and stuff, it kind of weighs out on top that the gun still kills faster than it really did beforehand. So they didn't really need to buff this, but let's give you guys a build for this thing here. So first thing in this muzzle category, we're gonna throw on that recoil booster. As always, the recoil booster is super good. Barrel section, even though it did get nerfed, we're still gonna run that Hawkinson 142 millimeter rapid barrel. If anything, the only thing it's gonna do is make the gun a little bit more controllable recoil wise, which is not really a bad thing. So I mean, for some people out there, they really had trouble controlling that recoil, and this will help them out. The underbarrel section, though, we're gonna throw on that M1941 hand stop. Hand stops real solid, definitely go with this. Magazine section, we're still running that 7.62 Gorenko. I tried to test out the Kurz and the different builds, that I don't believe the Kurz is really the way to go. I really haven't found much of a solution to use anything else besides the Gorenko 72, so I'll keep y'all updated if something else changes with that. The ammunition side of things, we're still throwing on lengthened here. This works out beautifully, so I go through on lengthened. In the rear grip section here, we're going to go throw on the leather grip wherever I can find that. Oh, it's also right up here. Aim down sight speed, aiming stability. It's giving you no cons, which is a fantastic, fantastic thing. So we love that leather grip. And in the optics section, we're throwing that Night Model 47 as opposed to the slate reflector, just because it's very easy to be able to see through this thing, and I'd much prefer to be able to see better and have more of a clear sight, just because that entire right side of your screen is taken up by that magazine, as opposed to having the slate reflector and being kind of almost a little bit more cut off visually from what I'm able to see around me. In the stock section, we're going to go through on that remove stock here, increase our mobility quite substantially. And then in the perk section, we're going to increase this here a little bit more. So with acrobatic here for movement speed and sprinting move speed, and of course down for perk 2, we're going to go for quick here for the increase in sprint speed, which is really, really solid. So this is my full build here for this thing. Definitely give this thing a try. Absolutely love the Owen gun. Definitely got updated with a pretty sizable, I'd say, buff as opposed to a nerf. All right, so talking about guns here, like the Owen gun that did not need to get buffed, the MP40 is one of those guns that did get buffed but really did not need to be buffed. So let's go over this thing. So minimum damage has been increased to 22 up from 21, so we didn't really need that, but now it's been increased. And then the Krausnik 317 millimeter 04B barrel has the bullet velocity increased to 30% up from 20%, which is pretty solid. And the VDD 189 millimeter short barrel has the bullet velocity increased now up by 20%. So that's pretty solid. But let's give you guys a build here with these updated attachments. Muzzle category, first thing on here, recoil booster as always. Barrel section, we are going to be using that 189 millimeter short barrel, which did get buffed here, which is pretty cool. I'd definitely say to be able to use this thing, I mean, this is for sure the top tier barrel nowadays, especially after that update. We run it beforehand, but now we're running it here exclusively afterwards. There's no kind of debate about that. The underbarrel section, we're going to go through on the M1941 hand stop, real solid. Definitely recommend this. Magazine section, we're going to go through on the 7.62 Gorenko 45. It's just kind of the tried and true right now. We've been running this for a quick minute, so stick with that. Ammunition side of things, we have the lengthened. We're going to throw on that for bullet velocity. I just think lengthen works out pretty nicely as opposed to hollow point here, especially after the update. I've been having good success with lengthened. In the rear grip section here, I'd recommend something that's going to help with that recoil control, which is more or less going to be the pine tar grip here. That's going to help with that recoil control and hip fire accuracy. This does negatively affect your ADS speed just ever so slightly, but do not worry about that. This thing ADS is plenty quickly. And then in the optic section, we're going to go through on the slate reflector here. The slate reflector is really good for this gun. It just seems to be very easy to use. You guys could also go run something like the Crown Snake iron sights, but just at least with this variant here in particular, this is the Snoop Dogg variant because it has the tracer. I believe the iron sights are a little bit hard to see out of, so I much prefer to run a slate reflector if I'm going to be running a tracer on the MP40, just because it, I want to be able to see what I'm shooting at, you know what I'm saying? At that in the stock section, we're going to go through on the Crown Stick 33M folding here, increasing our overall movement speed and everything like that, which is great. And then down into the perk section, we're going to go through on brace here to help with that initial firing recoil. And then in the perk 2 section, we're going to go through on quick here to increase our overall sprint speed. So this is my updated build here for the MP40. Didn't change too much, to be honest with you guys, but they got buffed and it's really good now. And not to make this so centered around SMGs, but they did touch the SMGs here quite a bit. We're talking about the Type 100. So this is going to be a variant that I've saved that I took all my attachments off of so we can build this here properly. But let's go over this here real quick. So the minimum damage has been increased up to 20 from 18, which is good. The Sakura 196mm light barrel had a bullet velocity penalty decrease to 10% from 12%. And then the Sirashi precision barrel had the bullet velocity increase to 40% up from 20, which is a real sizable increase. And the Warabuchi 134mm rapid barrel had a bullet velocity increase now by 10%, which is obviously really good. So this gun got a full-on buff here, no matter which way you look at it. So let's give you guys a build here. Corresponds to category of recoil booster. Barrel section, we're going to throw on that Warabuchi 134mm rapid barrel. Absolutely love this thing. It's really solid. I was running this before, and we're still going to run this here today. Underbarrel section, we need to be able to control this recoil because this thing's going to jiggle and kind of rattle around a little bit. So the M1941 hand stop is going to be the way to go. In the magazine section, we're going to throw on the 8mm Kurz 48 round mag. I've been running this thing here for a quick minute now, and I do really like how this thing, interacts with the gun. It just makes it so that it kills people incredibly fast, and I absolutely love that. And the ammunition side of things, we're going to throw on lengthened here for increase in bullet velocity. And in the rear grip section, we're going to go throw on that beautiful, as I was saying, I'm trying to look for the leather grip here, but it's right there. ADS speed, aiming stability. It's got no cons to that, which is amazing. And then now in the optic section, we're going to go throw on the slate reflector here, just because those iron sights are a little bit interesting to shoot out of, especially, when you have that Warabuchi barrel on there and it's going to be bouncing around as much as it does. The slate reflector is kind of a necessity here for this gun, just because, not even that it has a tracer, but for that overall recoil and bounce around type of pattern. So this makes your life so much easier, and I've been exclusively running this. Now in the stock section here, there's a couple of different options in here, but normally speaking, we end up going for something like the Warabuchi grip folding or the skeletal. It's kind of up to you guys here. You guys can go for a variety of different things, but usually speaking, the grip folding or the skeletal ends up working out very nicely. I would say probably the skeletal is going to work out in your favor more often than not, just because you can control that initial firing recoil. It's not too bad, and you're at close range anyways, so you're not trying to whip this out at long range. If this was a long range weapon, I'd probably say to stay away from this, but because it's close range, you can definitely get away with it. Now in the perk section here, we're actually going to go through on acrobatics, the first one up there for movement speed and sprinting movement speed, and then for our last one here, we're going to throw on quick for that overall increase in sprint speed. This is my full build here for this thing. This has been my full video. Hope you guys enjoyed today's update builds. If you guys did, give it a like, subscribe, and I'll see you all later. Just our next cap, don't be Randy, and I'm out. Peace.